Hello everyone, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. I hope this video finds you in good health and secure. I'm kind of excited because anytime I read some scholarship on Buddhism and I find some language, some verbiage, some specific words, and I know we're not supposed to be attached to words, and that's not what I'm indicating. And I know these are all translations, so consider the source. But it's really nice to feel validated by study, isn't it? And you start to interpret things in your own way. You have a choice of whether you acknowledge that maybe you're straying from the meaning or not. So every now and again, because that's what we do with study, we try to really get into the nitty-gritty of the meaning to make certain that our understanding, our implementation is correct, right? Correct for our own practice. And, we are karmic freight trains, so we may understand something in a way that happens in life all the time, not just in Buddhism, right? You think you understand something, a relationship, a problem, an activity, a way of doing things that is faultless, or at least the best exploration or implementation for you, only to find out at some point, often with a ton of regret, can't believe what I said to that person. It could be an intimate, a lover, a partner, or it could be just an anonymous group of people at work or somewhere else. And you go back and you think, I'm such an idiot. I was so convinced I was right about this, and only to find out I'm what a dumbass, right? We've all been through that. And certainly with something as incredibly powerful and important as Buddha-ness, our mind, our GoHonzon mind, I really don't want to find out I've been doing this wrong. Oof. But it's bound to happen because the nature of our mind, our samsaric mind, the mind that emerges, after all, from this freight train of karma, it's not that you're defective, right? It's not that I'm defective when I make these aha moments. It's just this tremendous force of momentum of the energies of which I'm instantiated from, manifested from, constructed from. They have tendencies. And in certain conditions, those tendencies really show themselves. But that doesn't mean our monkey mind we just take it for granted. Till one day a light bulb goes off and that particular attic light in one of those millions of realms we're constantly creating and modifying, right? And now I get it. Yeah. Anyway, so we do that with our Buddhist practice. Of course we do. It's the nature of practice. Shakyamuni knew this. This is why he spent so many years gradually cultivating people's self-awareness. That's what all the provisional teachings are about. So, back to what I started by saying. Sometimes when we read an earlier sutra, we know it's provisional, but there's explorations in there might apply to our own karmic momentum, our freight train. Oh, I didn't know that caboose was hanging on there, right? And it's an opportunity for us to deepen our confidence, our understanding, and recommit, deepen our resolve. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Oh, gosh, I get it now. Yeah? And when we study and we see some verbiage or some concept discussed, and it validates something we suspected but we weren't sure about. Oh, that's really, you can tingle with excitement. I get it. Yeah. So a lot of what Tendai has written, albeit translations, it just does that for me. Sometimes it leaves me a little like, huh? Because word salad, yeah? But when I get it, it's really exciting. So this is the last chapter in this book on the 3,000 Realms ebook. You can get it on the threefoldlotus.com website, yeah? Or you can, purchase the print book if that's convenient for you. But a lot of you are in countries all over the world, and sometimes shipping is just crazy. It costs more than the book printing. So the ebooks hopefully make this easier for you. Okay, this comes from Tendai Lotus Texts, and it's from the BDK English Tripitaka series. They've done a lot of translation works, although they're not... they're recognized as an authority for the spread of Buddhism throughout the world. They try to adopt a posture of, what's the word I'm looking for? Agnosticism? Not philosophy-wise, but they don't want to be pushed around by different sects and organizations that have their own particular agenda, although BDK is also, right? But they try to be democratic. And so, especially with the Tripitaka series, which they're trying to cover all of Buddhism, although I have to say they have a lot of focus on the early stuff, but I don't remember reading anything in the BDK realm as saying these are the actual works of Buddha, that only the stuff in the Pali language is authoritative. That's just baloney. If any language was going to be authoritative, it would be Prakrit, which is the language that Shakyamuni used to teach. But even Shakyamuni said, if this is to, not if, but his mission was that these teachings be spread worldwide, out of his own mouth, and it's translated in many different languages and texts, it should be spread in the local language, because the understanding is the important thing, not the words. We hear this constantly. Shakyamuni was concerned about people coming to their own self-realization. And if they have to learn a foreign language in order to do that, it's going to feel apart. It's not going to feel inculcated in their understanding, right? And remember, too, why even say anything like that? Because it was transferred orally. It wasn't a written teaching. For hundreds of years, it was spread through memorizing and repeating. This is one of the reasons we can have great confidence in those translations coming from, especially the early ones, because they were translated from word of mouth, but very memorized, very accurate repetition. So... yeah, oddly enough, the errant little misleading aspects of Buddhist sectarianism and so forth don't come from different translations from the oral tradition. They come from little egomaniacs wanting to use the power of the teachings for their own agency, goals, political goals, egotistic goals, whatever. But, because the teachings are clear and so well translated so many times throughout history, there's always scholarship that goes, you buffoon, it doesn't say that, boom, and just comes right back to, right, truth. And it's a fascinating aspect of Buddhist history, yeah. So here's Tendai. A Guide to the Tendai Fourfold Teachings, end quote. 10 modes of contemplation. He's talking about how to think about how to set the mind in its proper perceptive, right? When we talk about the Buddha eye, the opening of the eyes, we're talking about mental perception, right? It's an equal sign there. I often use the word perception. Understand, I'm using a word that's more contemporary to our modern minds. When we talk about understanding something, we don't, in our regular day vernacular, we don't say, oh, well, we do. Actually, let me correct myself. We don't use the word eyes. I now have the eyes for this architectural teaching that you're giving me. But we do say all the time, oh, I see. Oh, I see. Now I get it because I see what you're saying. I see what that's about. That's a vision thing, right? But we're talking about our minds. So when you hear in Buddhism the Buddha eye, we're talking about seeing through the perception of absolute, unencumbered seeing, understanding, truth. Makes sense, right? All right, so let's get into it. 10 modes of contemplation. Next, I shall explain the 10 modes of contemplation for correct cultivation. Correct cultivation of what? Our Buddha mind, our correct perception. Again, in terms of each of the 4 doctrines, their meaning differ, even though their names are the same. Now I shall merely explain them according to the complete doctrine. The other 3 doctrines follow the same pattern. Tendai is kind of a clinician of Buddhism, yeah? He takes everything apart into not unlike Nagarjuna many hundreds of years earlier. It's just as his perception and his time is very different, but the same methodology, that Buddhism has throughout, this clinical dissection of things, mainly the way that our minds work. 1, viewing the inconceivable object. You know how I rail all the time about the object of devotion or the object of concentration, right? Devotion, I hate that word. It works in the West. We understand a strong commitment toward, right? But don't get religious with me about that, because that's not what it's about. It's about a dedicated, clear, resolute, confident, right? So the object in quotes here, again, English doesn't have a good word for this. Like I distinguish between GoHonzon and mandala all the time, because a lot of groups and organizations don't, and they try to fool you into thinking you have to qualify for this mandala, and they even call the mandala a GoHonzon. But here's the laughable truth about that. All the time, from Shakyamuni to Nichiren, the GoHonzon, and Nichiren is the one who labels it such, the GoHonzon, as the ultimate goal of our practice. GoHonzon, he says it literally, never seek this GoHonzon outside yourself. The mandala is not the GoHonzon. But a lot of groups call it that way, and then they make you jump through hoops to get one. Now, this is what I say is laughable about that, is because all the way back to Shakyamuni, the lifespan chapter, the Lotus Sutra, every one of us, every phenomena in the universe has Buddha as a condition of being. It's endemic, it's innate, it's inherent, it's already there. So why does anybody, how arrogant is it, right, to say, I'll give you the flesh to cover your body with if you'll qualify for it. If I decide you're qualified for it. Excuse me, sir, I have flesh. It's already here. It's how I exist with this flesh. Oh, no, but you don't have this flesh. You have to qualify for this flesh, and I'll decide whether you can get it. How far away from Buddhism can you get? That's so abhorrent. And yes, I am talking to those of you who are upset with me for, oh, you let the mandala be on the video. Oh, what an insult. What? You have been so misprogrammed, it's pathetic. Please. The GoHonzon is extant in your mind. And this is what we're talking about, opening. That's your objective. That's why I keep saying the word object here in these translations is really, it's not the right word because it should be a verb, like objective, but that's kind of a provisional. It kind of works. But you must understand, GoHonzon is something inherent in you. It's like a muscle. We have to work it out. We have to train it to stay open. For what purpose? For what means? It's simply our mental window, our opportunity to allow our Buddha mind to take precedence, to stay in our operating moment-to-moment life. That's what GoHonzon is. It's the doorway between samsara and enlightenment. That's GoHonzon. And we want to keep it open. That's the go part. Because that Honzon, that active portal to keeping the mind open, is essential for us to experience Buddha-ness. The mandala is it's the most efficient tool Nichiren could come up with to remind us, to train our samsaric mind to go, look over here, look over here, look over here. Distract all the distractions and go, now concentrate on your Buddha-ness. Open that GoHonzon. Right? So here Tendai is talking about it. Viewing the inconceivable object, the GoHonzon. He didn't know to call it that then. Nichiren called it that. But he's talking about exactly that. First is viewing the inconceivable object or the objective or that portal, yeah? This means that in a single moment of consciousness, pay attention, to view completely and totally all of, do you know what I'm going to say? The 3,000 categories of existence. I like that better than realms. The 3,000 categories of existence, you see how fluid that is? Including the 100 realms and the 1,000 suchnesses. That's the very mathematics of the 3,000 realms in a single thought moment. But the way it's translated here agrees with what I've been telling you. These aren't specific holes and, oh, am I in hell now? Am I in animality now? I'm in hunger. It must be lunch. No. These are spheres of mental focusing. If your stomach groans and gnarls enough, then you start to think about eating. That's a category of existence. Fooding. But, when we talk about the realm of hunger, we add to that our desires, our rampant desires. Not just the latest camera software we can download from Amazon or whatever, but our sheer desire for sex, for mating. all of that. World of hunger, realm of hunger. It's a category of existence, this grabbing for ownership. It's a powerful one. But it takes place within many other powerful, instinctive categories of existence. I like that. Including the 100 realms and 1,000 suchnesses. And you know what that's in reference to, right? The constantly, think of it like an atom. You know, you can't identify an electron in an atom. You can only identify that there is a charge at a certain level around the core of an atom, which you also can't go, there it is. We can just explore and identify fields of energies that construct our idea of an atom. Same thing with realms, categories of existence. And so we have 10 basic ones we start with, a spectrum from Buddha-ness to utter horror. And we identify 10 stages, but they're all contained within each other. It's just a cloud of possibilities of categories of existence. And they all exist within one another. In other words, it never stops changing. It's very convoluted. You can't just go, I'm in the Bodhisattva of animality. No, you're not. But that roiling mix, it's happening. And you can gravitate toward a group or a tendency or another. And when we chant, we definitely are moving that tendency and condition toward Buddha-ness. Buddha of Buddha of Buddha of Buddha of Buddha. A Bodhisattva of Buddha, of learning of Buddha, Bodhisattva of Buddha. Right? This constant roiling mix. And so this is what he's saying. To view this inconceivable, complete picture of categories of existence is to, in a single moment of consciousness, view completely and totally. He wants to make sure you get the whole picture. This isn't a specific realm. It's the perception, the Buddha eye, of all 3,000 categories of existence, which includes the 10 and the 10 and the 10 suchnesses and the multipliers and all that. To conceive of that whole momentum of energy is to perceive the actual formations of you, me, the dog, the universe. It's all the same. It's hard to wrap your mind around it, isn't it? Well, not your Buddha mind, your Samsaric mind. This then is the object of contemplation. This is what we're trying to accomplish by focusing in on it, meditation. And what is Namo Myo Renge Kyo? It's an active meditation. One, it is identical to emptiness. Emptiness, if you understand the concept, isn't that there's nothing. Emptiness is that there's nothing left over. From moment to moment to moment, everything re-instantiates. Birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. That death isn't you and I dying. It's the death of a manifestation of this energy. It re-manifests from moment to moment. It's happening. The universe is expanding. The earth is moving at thousands of miles per second through a spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy that's moving at 140,000 kilometers per second. And the galaxy itself hurtling through the universe. Everything is moving very, very fast, just like causality, the speed of light, which is really the speed of cause. That's why the C. It is identical to provisional existence. See, that's the identifying the Samsaric mind's constant reference to the past to create the perception of a self. This is where the trick is, yeah? Our Samsaric mind wants to hang on to all the previous moments of instantiation to validate being. But in reality, we are being. Just being this as it moves, being. Instead of dragging along the past like it somehow validates you. Stop it. That's why you suffer. It is identical to the middle. There it is. How to exist as a Bodhisattva, which is within the mire of identification, but with the mind, the Buddha eye, of the moment and the future. How do we live this moment? And whatever this moment entails, we can influence and direct into a beatific future, a perfect future, a future of truth, rather than a future of hanging on and dragging the past, the illusions. So there it is, all three. Forward, present, past. All in these three. Furthermore, it does not have spatial differentiation into front and back, because being is now. It doesn't have a before and an after. Your causes, your karma, your active karmic influence now projects into a potential future. And that's what we work on. It is vast and complete with perfect freedom in every direction. Therefore, the Lotus Sutra, the Myoho Renge Kyo, says, quote, the vehicle is tall and wide, end quote. Those with the highest capacities correctly view this object, this perception, this conception. Next is the 2, correctly arousing the mind of enlightenment. Oh man, I have to pause here. I'm going to leave that for the next video because honestly, as brief as these little categories are, and this is why I love reading Tendai, you kind of have to step back and take a breath and think, man, that was major right there. That covered a ton of ground. In that, just that first step of contemplation, Tendai has described the mental gymnastics, the correct form of performing our enlightening mechanism of the Lotus Sutra, because that's what Tendai is talking about. And people ask me, I get emails, what should be in my mind? What should I be thinking when I'm chanting, when I'm doing Gangyo, when I'm practicing at my altar with my mandala? What should I turn off my mind? Turn on, all the cliches. No, you should have only one thought. Opening this Buddha eye. That's the objective. That's the GoHonzon. Everything else is distraction. Your job, your relationships, your temperament, all of that. Good, bad, indifferent, helpful, or obstacle, whatever. That is your mind of samsara. Your whole goal in Buddhist practice is to subject that mind in favor of a much higher perceptive knowing. Do you follow? If you move into that Buddha eye of understanding, then all of that other stuff, it just falls into place. It doesn't matter. When you find yourself things matter, that's because it's a monkey. It's forcing you to focus on it. And that's not it. Your life right now, as it's manifesting, this is it. And if you think in samsara with that mind of moment-to-moment experience, then all of that other stuff, temperament gets mollified. Opinions change. Behavior changes. What is the Eight Noble Truths? Ways of behavior, working it backwards from behavior to mind. Like the martial arts, totally misunderstood today. Martial arts today, especially in the West, are seen as, early on in martial arts, there were two schools. We perfect our body and our mechanisms of our body so that our minds evolve and become more enlightened. Or, in our school of martial arts, we focus hardcore on developing our minds to understand our bodies so that we can be most effective in the way that we translate our mind's energy, qi, into motion, tai chi chuan. Moving the bioelectric mechanisms of our body through our mental will to instantiate human samsaric force. But that lesson has been lost over the centuries. And now martial arts is either a sport, and there's some abhorrent versions of it out there, with very little idea of raising consciousness, or become completely mystical without a relationship to samsara. This is not Buddhism. Buddhism is the middle way. It's the combining of the two. Not the combining in a way of saying all of the crap and all of the purity, and now we have this wonderful mix of goo. No, it's to be a bodhisattva, a samsaric being of tremendous will, compassion, with a goal in mind constantly toward enlightenment. And that's fed by GoHonzon. That's fed by Buddha-ness. This is the middle way. What you and I are doing right now. And as we influence the world around us, we are performing for ourselves as well as others and raising the Buddha eye. Yeah? Thank you for listening. Thank you for your practice. It does a great deal of, there's a great deal of support for this propagation of Nichiren's doctrine, of Shakyamuni's teachings of the Lotus Sutra. If you like and subscribe, the algorithm gods at Google, YouTube, whatever, make our channel come up in the results a little sooner so that people who are seeking out this information can find it. So that's very important to support the channel. Thank you for that. And if you can support in any other way, either downloading ebooks or buying print books or donating through Patreon, PayPal. If you can do that, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. tremendously important for our Sangha. In the meantime, if you're going to do any of that, you need to take care of your health. So please do that. Keep studying. Keep your practice strong. Strengthen your conviction. And if there's anything that's annoying you that you can't quite figure out, use the comments section. Let me know. I'll do a whole deep dive into whatever subject or interpretation of a subject you need. I want to know. Let me do my Bodhisattva effort, yes? Give me the opportunity. I will take it. And if it's too personal to put in the comments, by all means, email me directly, tlksylvain@gmail.com, yeah? In the meantime, I wish you the best of fortunes and health and security. And I'll see you in the next one. All right? Bye for now.